Oh, good morning.
Good morning.
So good to see you. I have a joke for you. St. Peter and Satan were having an argument about baseball just outside of the pearly gates. And as the argument got heated, Satan said, well, look, let's just have a baseball game on neutral territory among our best players. St. Peter said, okay, that sounds good. He said, however, there is something you need to remember. And Satan said, what's that? He said that we have the best players and coaches. And St. Peter, totally unperturbed, said, yeah, I understand that. But we have all the umpires. Well, I have to bring you a joke. Earlier this month, in fact, the first weekend of the month, I had the pleasure of having my oldest son fly me to Houston to see a play that he was doing. He's a professional actor, sings, dances, does musical theater, Shakespeare. He's actually making a living off being an actor. Isn't that cool? He flew me to Houston to see him in this play. I was fascinated and wanted to see it. It was called The Christians. And it was the story of a fundamentalist pastor of thousands of congregants who got up one Sunday and said, I no longer believe in hell. That was a shock to his congregation. The interesting thing about this play, however, as my son told me about it, he said, and it's based on a true story. And he started talking, I said, oh, I know the guy you're talking about. Many of us in the Unity movement know this minister, Reverend Carlton Pearson, who had 7,000 congregants and stood up in the pulpit one Sunday and said, I no longer believe in hell. People were pretty upset. His associate pastor left the church and took half the 7,000 with him. Carlton began to preach that there was no hell. And ultimately, the church ended up with only 200 people. His marriage ended and his wife divorced him. What could he have discovered, discerned, found out that would make him willing to turn everything upside down because he had a new belief that didn't coincide with what he had been teaching previously? What could possibly cause him to make such a drastic statement? In the play, they said it was based on this pastor going to an international conference of people who do work all over the world saving sinners. And a man got up to talk about salvation and told the story of when he was in one of the countries and there was a market that caught on fire. The fire was really huge. People were running out. But a young boy of about 12 or 13 ran into the market and in time came out shielding a little girl, which turned out to be his sister, and he was on fire. And when he got her to safety, he lay down in the street and he burned to death. And the man telling the story said, "What a shame. We lost that soul before we could save him, and he is going to burn in hell for all eternity." So the pastor in the play said at that moment he no longer believed in hell, because what kind of God would condemn to hell a child who gave up his life for his sister?
Exactly.
In Carlton's case, he had his epiphany at the deathbed of his grandmother. His grandmother was a pastor. And she had been doing good for the community for many, many years. She had helped the homeless find homes and jobs. She had fed children and fed families who didn't have food. She had helped move children from dangerous situations and abuse and got them more loving places to live. And that's just a part of all the things that she had done. But yet at her deathbed, she confessed to her grandson, "I am terrified of dying." And he said, "Why?" And she said, "Because I am going to go to hell and burn for all eternity." And he said, "You?" He said, "Of all people, that's impossible." And she said, "There's something you don't know." She said, "Yes, I did all those things, but also I liked to go gamble on Fridays. So I know I'm going to hell." And in that moment, Carlton said he knew there could be no hell and that there couldn't be a God who would punish his grandmother because hundreds of people's lives had been saved and transformed by the loving way in which she helped others. So whether we look at the story they used in the play or Carlton's actual story, he took a chance because it didn't fit. It didn't make sense anymore. It was too much to wrap his mind around, that a God who was the God of love could be so cruel as to punish his grandmother for maybe playing the penny slots in the nearby casino. And so he stepped out and he said, "I no longer believe in hell." And he began to speak. He wrote a book and began to speak around the Unity movement. He was interim minister at Johnny Coleman's church in Chicago. Sadly enough, though, he has never totally recovered in his life from that choice. But he says he has no regrets. He has never regretted making that decision, even though he didn't have 7,000 people anymore and millions of dollars coming in and being able to live well. He had no regrets. So what am I talking about? As I look at what's going on in our world today, and you might agree with me, as we look out into what's going on in our world, we may believe that we're going to hell in a handbasket. I did look that up, the hell in a handbasket, because I've been curious about it. And they don't know when it got started, but they say it means that the current situation is going downhill very rapidly. But it's interesting because our elder brother Jesus, whom I I consider one of the greatest master teachers of all times, never, ever, 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 ever said that hell was a place you go to when you die. He never said that. He never said that heaven was a place that you go to when you die. One where you have the land of milk and honey and angels are playing harps and streets of gold, or the other, the eternal hellfires. He never taught that. What he did say was that the kingdom of heaven is at hand, which means that it's right here. If something is it's at hand, it's nearby, right? Yeah, you don't have to die first. He also said the kingdom of God is within you. The kingdom of God is the kingdom of heaven. So heaven is within us. It's within us. And as we understand what heaven really is metaphysically, we understand that heaven is a state of consciousness, and so is hell. Heaven is a state of consciousness where we are living in alignment with the truth of God, and we are experiencing joy and peace and love and compassion and prosperity. Non-judgment. Hell is a state of consciousness where we are experiencing anger and fear and hate and criticism, condemnation, and judgment, blame, shame, and guilt, violent thoughts and actions. That's hell. And because it's a state of consciousness, because it's a state of mind, we can have heaven or hell one day to the next. I don't know about you. Anybody else in here had heaven one day and hell the next? Raise your hand. Okay, I'm not the only one. Yeah. As a matter of fact, you can have heaven 1 hour and hell the next hour. Right? It's a matter of what we are holding within our being. In Unity, we say, thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. Let me clarify that a little bit before I go further with that, because that statement has been used for metaphysical malpractice. To have people believe that every thought that runs through your mind is going to produce after its kind in your life. Baloney. The statement says thoughts held in mind. Because you see, anything that you hold in mind means it is something you are focusing on.
Yes.
And because it is all energy, if you focus on it long enough, the energy of it moves through you and then moves forward and expresses in your life, because we first attract the energy, the power of it from the universal mind, that which we call God, which is the quantum field. And we know that from the wave particle theory that everything is as a particle, inactive. But when we focus on it, it begins to become a wave and begins to move toward the shore of our lives, bringing the manifestation of whatever it is we are holding, whatever we are focusing on. It's very easy to point the finger at ISIS and the police and you name it out there now. But remember, when you point the finger, where those other fingers are pointing.
Yeah.
So evidently, we are contributing to the consciousness that we see in our lives and in our world.
Yes.
Does this make sense?
Yes. Yes.
But not every little thought, But if you focus, give all of your energy to a thought, such as, I'm unworthy, I'm not good enough, I'll never be enough, no one loves me, I'm all alone. If you keep holding that as the truth, it becomes the truth. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. But I am wonderful. I am smart. I am a wonderful friend. People love me. People are drawn to me. I have many people who love to be with me. I have lots of love to give. I am prosperous. Money is pouring into my life. Hold that thought. And it will manifest. Because seeing is not believing, believing is seeing.
Yeah.
So if you believe it, you conceive it, and so it becomes the heaven or hell of your life. And so when we are in the consciousness of hell, we are expressing through criticism, condemnation, and judgment, anger, fear, violent thoughts and actions, hate. When we are expressing, when we are in heaven, we are expressing through love, forgiveness, peace, prosperity, happiness, non-judgment. That's when we know we're in heaven or in hell. And then here's the good news, though. We can shift it.
Yeah.
We can shift it. As we look at what's going on our planet right now, and we can say, okay, yeah, we're going to hell in a handbasket, but what if? This is what I believe. So, just kind of play with me right now. What if what we are seeing, the anger, the violence, the attacks, the fear, the hatred, what if we have almost reached a critical mass and are on the verge of a quantum shift in consciousness, and all that we are seeing is everything that is coming up to be healed? What if? What if this is truly becoming heaven right now? But in order to have it fulfilled 100%, we have got to heal what is rearing its head and saying, heal me now. What if we stop judging it? What if we stop buying into fear every time the news says that plane had to crash because it had to be a terrorist act, and we're terrified. We're at home nursing fear. What if when we hear that, we say, well, I choose heaven today? What if? What if everything unlike heaven that shows up, we say, today I choose heaven? What if when we receive that exorbitant bill from the IRS, we say, today I choose heaven? Say that. Today I choose heaven. What if when you receive a terrifying diagnosis from the doctor, we say, "Today I choose heaven"? See, John Milton in his book Paradise Lost says the mind is a place where in itself it can create heaven of hell or hell of heaven. What if when we have the experience of the loss of a beloved in our lives through death, we say, "Today I choose heaven"? What if when we get in our car in the morning and get out on the freeway and get into traffic, we say, "Today I choose heaven"? Or when we get to that job and we're called into someone's office and they say, "I'm really sorry, we're laying off. Profits are not good. We're going to have to lay you off." You say, "Today I choose heaven." See, because it's a choice. Heaven is a choice. Hell is a choice. As I said, you can have heaven right this minute, and 10 minutes later you can have hell. Choice is yours. But look at how much better that is than being at the mercy of what's going on. To know that you have a choice as to what you experience. I used to turn the TV off when Donald Trump came on. I couldn't stand him. He irritated me. I'd feel it all in my body. And one day, I just couldn't do that to myself anymore. So I did radical forgiveness worksheets on him. I did 6. It worked, Lisa. And now, I don't like him, but I love him. And I sit there and I send love. He's even on my prayer list. Because he's coming up for me to heal something. Criticism, condemnation, and judgment. So I don't judge him anymore. I love him instead. You see, you don't have to like something. All that's necessary is love. So all of what we are seeing that appears to be unlike love is simply a call for us to step up and be love. Thank you. To be love. To choose heaven. So tomorrow morning, what are you going to say? Today I choose heaven. And the next day, what are you going to say? Today I choose heaven. And every day until we see that quantum shift happen upon this planet, what are we going to say? Today I choose heaven. The choice is yours.